on CyberCrime.
He became obsessed with pornography. Since then, he feels that, well, there's nothing that he shouldn't be able to watch. There's no movie he shouldn't be able to go see.
This mother sued a library for allowing her son to access pornography on the net. We've got the latest on this legal landmark.
Plus, the internet becomes a new weapon in an old crime, identity theft. We have one woman's story.
And is former InfoSeek exec Patrick Naughton facing prison time? That story and more in our CyberCrime News and Review.
CyberCrime is brought to you by Symantec.
Hi, welcome to another episode of CyberCrime.
And this week's show, the telltale signs of online identity theft, the newest developments in the debate over library internet filters, and of course, the usual bells and whistles of CyberCrime News and Review, C3, Chaos Theory. That being said, let's get started. Did you know that more than 1,000 public libraries filter all internet access? That's the case, even though the American Library Association has come out against the use of library filters since July 1997. What do you think? Is filtering software the answer? Well, one mother is so convinced that she sued her local library for failing to install such filters. The first of its kind lawsuit is already a legal landmark.
No one has ever, prior to Kathleen R. and since Kathleen R., no one has ever sued a library affirmatively saying that a library has caused their child damage. Never happened.
Even so, the Kathleen R. suit against the city of Livermore didn't draw much attention in July 1997. Livermore Public Library, 1 month earlier, Brandon, Kathleen R.'s 12-year-old son, walks in, takes advantage of the library's full workstation computers with open internet access, and for the next 10 successive days, downloads these and other pornographic images. To protect her son Brandon, Kathleen R. insisted on anonymity.
What kind of effect, either directly or indirectly, has this had on your son?
He became obsessed with pornography. Since then, he feels that, well, there's nothing that he shouldn't be able to watch. There's no movie he shouldn't be able to go see, or there's no, television program he shouldn't be able to watch because, he's seen it before.
Michael Millen represents Kathleen R. in the suit against Livermore.
The suit doesn't mention anything about trying to get money. It's simply for an injunction to stop the library from allowing youngsters to get psychologically harmed by this stuff.
The landmark case makes 3 major claims under state law.
The library has dangerous premises. The library is committing a public nuisance by allowing children to see this obscene pornography. And the library, quite frankly, is wasting taxpayer money.
But in October 1998, Judge George Hernandez never got to those issues, concluding a federal law called the Communications Decency Act shielded the library from liability. The parties did find themselves back in court in January 1999 when the plaintiffs amended the complaint to include a constitutional challenge.
There is no constitutional duty to protect against the information that comes over the library's computer terminals, and the plaintiff and her son don't have a constitutional right to a safe internet.
In this case, you've got librarians, according to policy, installing devices that put out material that harms children. For that reason, it rises to the level of outrageous, shocking the conscience of the court, and I suggest the library should be held to answer.
Again, the court dismissed the case, but now the local lawsuit was gaining national attention.
Not only should you be at the library with your child, but they're suggesting that you're sitting at your child's shoulder. It's very unrealistic expectations. Children are protected from pornography in every other avenue in the state of California, except the public library.
The policy was adopted in 1997 after a rather extensive public hearing process. And the library board took a lot of time and had quite a bit of discussion as far as all these competing interests that are involved.
You won't find the type of material Brandon downloaded from the web on library shelves. That's a decision made by libraries. Libraries make that decision every day. But does the internet change that analysis? Should a library that provides internet access available to minors have a responsibility to filter or block internet content?
I mean, we have blocking at my computer at home, so I think they should have it here for little kids to come.
I think it might be a good idea to have a special computer maybe for the younger ones that does have restrictions.
First of all, filtering is a one-size-fits-all solution. So you've got the government deciding what kids can see and what they can't. It deprives parents of the ability to make a decision about what's right for their children. We don't want the government deciding what our children can and cannot see.
Since the lawsuit was filed in 1997, the debate has picked up steam. Over the past 2 years, Congress has considered more than a half dozen filtering bills. Most are still pending. In 1999, states considered more than a dozen similar bills. 2 states passing library filtering legislation, those being South Dakota and Arizona. And this year, many voters considered the issue at the polls. Meanwhile, the Kathleen R. suit is not over, and the case is now before a state appellate court.
We're trying to keep our kids safe. And to me, everybody that's against this, they're anti-child.
Interesting story, Alex. We know the case is on appeal. So where do we stand with that?
Well, I think 3 months down the line, we'll see oral arguments on this case. And then maybe 6 months around Christmas time, we'll have a decision. But again, I think Kathleen R. has a difficult suit here. The CDA, as that's concerned, I think that the library will be protected. I don't think they'll be forced to put on filtering software. And as for a fundamental right for a minor to be protected from harm caused by Internet pornography,
You think that's a tough road to go?
Yeah, I think that's a tough road.
Well, and you mentioned in your introduction that the American Library Association, they're against filtering software.
Right. The theory is one size fits all. It doesn't work when it comes to different age groups. It doesn't work when it comes to different maturity levels. Also, that it's preventing people from getting constitutionally protected speech.
Well, and that's an argument we've seen the ACLU make, that this kind of software can block words and block sites that people should have access to. And when you think about it, you're going to a library, you're doing research, you're going to want to be able to have open access.
Yeah, I agree with you. The proponents of filtering software will tell you that happens infrequently. But those that hate filtering software will say, doesn't matter, shouldn't happen, period.
All right, well, thanks, Alex. And we'll continue to bring you updates on pending legislation and the Livermore appeal. Meanwhile, go to our website and give us your take on a library's responsibility when it comes to Internet access. If you think library filters are a big mistake, pick A, no filters. If filtering software makes sense for only those computers designated for minors, select B. An alternative solution is requiring minors to get parental consent before using open Internet access. That's C. And then there's D. Maybe you think the librarian should individually monitor Internet use by minors. Again, you'll find that poll on the front page. And here's reason number 2 to go to cybercrime.com. Our security scanner located at the top right corner of the page. Find out whether your computer is infected with any of the top 5 viruses. And now the security check can tell you if your computer is susceptible to Trojan horse programs. The scanner is here to help, so after you try it, let us know what you think. Email us at scannerfeedback@zdtv.com. Later in the show, we'll give you some statistics on what others who have used the scanner have learned about their computers. And remember, you can tell us more about the scanner and share your thoughts and ideas about our stories during our live chat. The Cybercrime team is there every Monday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so come chat with us. We hope to see you there. Still ahead on Cybercrime, the cult of the dead cow goes corporate. Well, it could happen, the latest in the new trend to buy hacker groups.
In Cybercrime news this week, former Disney Internet exec Patrick Naughton won't be going to jail, but he may be responsible for helping put others behind bars. Naughton, shown here on Silicon Spin, was sentenced to 9 months in home detention for crossing state lines with the intention of having sex with a minor. Naughton could have received 15 years in prison. Prosecutors asked for a lighter sentence, saying Naughton has written computer programs to track Internet sex offenders. Netscape says it's working to patch a security hole in its web browser. The vulnerability, known as Brown Orifice, could allow outsiders to see you run and take files on your computer. The code was posted on Slashdot and other bulletin boards over the weekend. As a workaround, Netscape is urging users to disable the Java programming language in their browsers. The Pentagon says attacks on its computer systems are up 10% this year. It counted a total of 13,998 by the beginning of this month. That's an average of about 3 an hour. The Defense Department spokesperson says no systems have been compromised, but the ever-present noise level from the recreational hackers could make it harder to detect a serious threat from overseas. The cult of the dead cow may be going corporate, and that could be a sign of the times. Within the past year, the security firm at stake has acquired 2 companies, the Boston-based hacker think tank Lock Heavy Industries and the London-based Cerberus Information Security, a company that tests and monitors the safety of networks. Now, it seems, investors have even expressed an interest in the collective, the cult of the dead cow. One business plan even proposes a public offering. Kaiser Permanente is blaming a programming error for violating the patient confidentiality of hundreds of members last week. Their names, address, and health problems were mistakenly included in a mass email. The emails were in response to questions sent through Kaiser online. The site allows members to ask for medical and pharmaceutical advice. During a planned upgrade, technicians noted that email delivery had been interrupted and quickly wrote a program to resend the email. Too quickly, it turned out. 800 messages were sent out before the problem was discovered. Still ahead on CyberCrime.
When I found out that I was a victim of identity theft, I went into what you call post-traumatic stress disorder.
The Internet's role in stealing one woman's identity. It's a story you won't want to miss. Next.
Hi, welcome back to CyberCrime. Did you know that identity theft is among one of the fastest growing crimes in America? Every year, nearly 500,000 people fall victim. And now with more and more people conducting business online, everything from paying bills to buying books, thieves have a new tool to target victims. In this week's CyberCrime Consumer Alert, we introduce you to one woman who knows firsthand what it's like to have your identity stolen.
When someone gets their identity stolen, it is a total nightmare. It changed my life entirely. I mean, for a while there, I was really feeling like...
To this day, Mari Frank is still feeling the effects of having her identity stolen back in 1996. Thanks to the numerous fraud alerts on her credit, she still carries the first page of the police report in her wallet. And while the crime of identity theft is not new, the tool used to target the victim is the Internet.
My identity was stolen when a woman who I didn't even know had gone online and ordered my credit report. And she did this by working in a law office, pretending to be a private investigator. And really, she was a paralegal. And she had access to the Internet. She had access to utilize the online services, the data dealers, and she was able to order my credit report.
A couple of clicks with the mouse, and that was all it took to assume the identity of Mari Frank.
Once she had my credit report, she had everything in front of her. She knew my date of birth. She knew all of the information about me, because on the credit header information on your credit report is your birthday, your social security number, your former names, your address, your unlisted phone numbers, and then it also has all of your credit cards.
What happened to Mari was, without a doubt, unfortunate but not uncommon. Greg Regan is a special agent in charge of financial crimes for the U.S. Secret Service. He says it's only natural the Internet is giving rise to this type of crime.
Identity theft is just growing with the Internet. As the expansion of the Internet grows, more commerce takes place in it. It only makes sense that more criminal activity would take place. And it does allow this anonymous ability for criminals to do it.
Before the proliferation of the Internet, dumpster digging was a common way to steal someone's identity. Thieves would go through people's trash cans looking for blank checks, credit card applications, junk mail. Well, thanks to cyberspace, people can get that same information online without having to dig through someone's trash. That may be one attraction, another is ease. Logging onto a computer is much easier than rifling through someone's trash.
More people are getting on the Internet. More people have access to this information. This information is cheap, and it's transmitted in a nanosecond.
But it can also be traced, and that's where the Secret Service comes in. In a special forensic crime lab in Washington, D.C., agents investigate financial crimes like online identity theft. The Internet may be the tool used to hijack the victim's information, but the thief usually creates a false credit card, driver's license, and/or social security card to pull off the crime. Larry Stewart, the lab's director, spends hours examining fake cards, looking for clues left in the signatures.
Many of the people that are doing this crime on the Internet are also using computers and computer printers to create the final document. So we have the ability here to identify from using the ink what type of computer printer was used. We can give them the make and model, for instance, and tell what type is being used to create the Social Security card and create the credit card or the driver's check, whatever the document is.
While it's an effective method, this type of investigation is usually reserved for high-dollar cases like organized crime rings. When it comes to individual cases like Maury Frank, local law enforcement gets involved first.
I did the homework to find out where this person had gotten my information by looking at my credit report and then ordering the original application. I gave that to the police. They went out to the address that the cards were sent, and the only dumb thing she did is to actually go and live there. And so they were able to arrest her because she was on probation for shoplifting.
But that was in 1997, and laws against identity theft, both on and offline, were scant. In fact, before the Identity Theft Deterrence Act was passed in 1998, Maury Frank was not legally considered a victim. Credit card companies and banks were viewed as victims because the institutions assumed a significant part of any financial loss associated with the crime. The new law has helped change that, but
we're trying to address the issues, but it's like having the Titanic with holes all over and you're just putting little fingers in it. That's what it's like. It's just overwhelming to deal with them.
In a slight twist of irony, Maury is now using the same tool that was used to steal her identity to help others, the Internet. She's created the Identity Theft Prevention and Survival website. Maury has also been busy lobbying lawmakers on Capitol Hill to pass stricter laws concerning identity theft. For more on Maury's site, log on to identitytheft.org, or you can always head to cybercrime.com, where we've compiled a list of other helpful websites. And speaking of keeping safe, as promised, here's a sense of how those of you who have tried our security scanner approach security and privacy online. So far, more than 6,500 people have reported their results. Of those, almost 40% are at risk of an unauthorized intrusion. And while that number is significant, consider this. 90% of you are not vulnerable to some of the most common Trojan horse programs. The virus check results are less encouraging, however. Of the 4,000 plus that have reported their results, nearly 1 out of every 6 have a virus. Again, the place to get that checkup is cybercrime.com. Coming up on Cybercrime,
one of the misunderstood groups of people out there in the world are hackers.
Wells Pond from At Stake tackles the issue, why are hackers so misunderstood? Don't go anywhere. Chaos Theory is next.
Welcome back. It's time for C3, and this would probably be a good time to thank you for all of those questions. Frankly, we've gotten so many, it's been hard to keep up, but we're working on it. Also, if you've got a particular panelist suggestion in mind, email us. The address is cybercrime@zdtv.com. This week, Mike from Indiana writes, what does the law say about unwanted ads posted on message boards? Well, Mike, that seems an appropriate one for Jennifer Granick, a defense attorney specializing in Internet law.
The company could threaten to sue you for a violation of your user agreement with them. They could also claim theft of services because you're using the bulletin board system for an unauthorized purpose. But what you're describing sounds pretty small time, so a civil or criminal action is rather unlikely. More probably, they'll just ban you from posting to the bulletin boards ever again.
Thanks, Jennifer. And Mike, for your question, your exclusive Cybercrime hat is in the mail. And finally, it's here. It's time for Chaos Theory. Now, when I say hacker, what image comes to mind? And before you answer that, ask yourself whether you've ever even met a hacker, or is it just an image you have based on everything that you've heard from the media? If it is, Wells Pond is here to help you break that stereotype. Formerly with the hacker think tank Loft and now with the security company at stake, Wells has 10 years of experience to bolster this chaos theory.
One of the misunderstood groups of people out there in the world are hackers, and people who are in the computer underground. Imagine if the only viewpoint that you had on a certain group of people was just purely through the media. The real way to understand a group of people is to have personal relationships with them and communicate with them. And that is one thing that is the only way to start to understand what makes people tick. As the hacker culture seems to be so isolated from like the real world, we have this online world and we have hacker conventions, but there's hardly anyone here that's not a hacker. The hacker needs to go out there and needs to talk to real people with security problems, real people designing systems. They need to be involved in their community. They need to get to know their politicians. They need to get to know the people who are in the press in their area. And I think that's really the only way that the hacking culture is going to start to be understood.
Another chaos theory is done. I got to tell you, these shows, they keep flying by.
They do, but don't worry, because we'll be back again next week, and here's one of the stories we're working on.
Initially, it was I had to have that patch on 24 hours a day, and I had to chew gum at the same time, and it really was very, very intense for me.
And expensive. To help Linda Lipscomb quit smoking, she estimates it's cost her close to $16,000 over the past year and a half for nicotine gum and patches. Now she's suing the tobacco company, but you may be surprised to find out where she filed her lawsuit. It's called iCourthouse.com, and next week we'll introduce you to what some are calling the courtroom of the future.
So join us for that story and much more. Until then, keep in touch. There's lots of ways to do that. First, you can email us. Our address is cybercrime@zdtv.com.
And, of course, you can always chat with us. Chat with us on Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, of course, you can always find all the latest cybercrime news at our website.
Cybercrime.com.
Cybercrime.com. Thank you, Alex. And we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.